Hello everyone, thanks for making your way back to Primacroups. Now we're going to talk about running functions over and over again. You do this with something called a loop. If you're okay with the function running over and over again until you stop it manually, the easiest way to loop a function is to write what's known as a while loop. All you have to write is while, open bracket, the condition that you're doing, close bracket, and then a colon. So the condition here, you can even just replace this with 1 if you wanted it to run forever until you stop it manually. Equivalently, you could before somewhere up where we're defining things, we could set condition to be equal to 1 or true does the exact same thing. As long as whatever's in this while bracket, if it's true or a number that isn't 0, then the while will continue to do what it's doing. So here we're not ever going to change condition, but if condition was ever changed to be false or to be 0 instead of 1, then for example if it's 0, it will not run ever. So it will get to here, decide, okay, what am I going to run here? If we have, so we're going to tell it to do something in here, and I'll take this opportunity to mention print. Print, whatever you put inside the brackets, it will show up on your terminal over here. So we're going to print our position. While we have condition set to 0, this while loop will never run because it'll get to the while loop, check to see if it's going to run it, and condition is equal to 0, so it is false. 0 is the same thing as false, it will not run, so it'll never print anything. So when we run this, it'll just end the thing without showing us anything. Whereas, if we change this condition to be equal to 1, then it'll just keep running that over and over again, because it's never going to stop being 1. We could have equivalently not had a condition variable and just put in 1 here, and it'll do the exact same thing. Now, after every time it does peg.position, it'll wait half a second before it continues to re-looping the while loop. I'm quickly going to switch this to peg.moveTo 100 100, and I'll change the timing so I have enough time to manually turn it off. I'm going to show you guys how to manually turn off a bot. So as you see, we have a bot that always moves our mouse back, so we only have a few seconds to stop the bot. So one way of stopping it is by going into Spider manually and hitting this red square. That'll stop whatever's going on in the terminal. Another way of stopping the bot, for any PyAutoGUI scripts, whenever it tries to move your mouse, it first checks to make sure you're not in the very top left corner. If you are in the very top left corner, you'll get this message over here and it'll stop the bot automatically. This comes in handy so often. So many of the bots I build end up looking like this, where I just have a list of functions that do something and I just do it over and over again. That's often sufficient, especially if you're doing something that works just at the GE. I'll just face west like you saw me do in the last example, in front of the big bank, set left clicks on the bank, and then just do this over and over again for spinning flax or training your herblore by cleaning Terramin or something like that. Now I'm going to talk about how to make loops that will end after a fixed number of times. One easy way is to just set up a counter, call it times for example, and we'll set it equal to 100. Actually, I'll just set it equal to 5 for now, but 100 is more like what you would set it to, or 1000. And I'll change the condition for whether or not the while loop keeps turning to whether or not times is currently above 0. So this little above symbol changes these two things into a true or a false. If times is bigger than 0, then it will turn it into a true, otherwise it'll turn it into a false. So now every time it goes through the loop, currently it would just go forever because times never changes, but if every single time I make times readjust itself to times minus 1, it's going to go in here and say, well, what am I changing times to? Because I put an equals to, so I'm changing a variable. So what am I changing it to? Well, what it is, -1. So now, after every time it runs the loop, it'll decrease times by 1, and then by the time it gets to 0, times will no longer be greater than 0. This will return a false, and it'll stop doing it. So now, as an example, we should see the mouse move to the corner 5 times, and after that 5th time, it'll stop. Worked just as we expected. Another way of doing a loop that only goes for a fixed number of times is, instead of a while loop, we can write a for loop. So what this is stating is there's a list here that is as long as times, or it's a list that goes 0, 1, 2, 3 all the way up to times. That's what range 0 times is creating. For each thing in that list, which is I, we're labeling it here, so this could be bananas. Still works. For bananas in range, that means we're calling the things in this list bananas, and now bananas is going to be 0 the first time, then 1 the second time, then 2 the third time, then 3 the fourth time. So that already will work as it is. The reason that worked is because bananas was 0, then bananas was 1, then bananas was 2, then bananas was 3. This didn't do anything because times was already used to set this list. So this didn't do anything, it still works without that. We'll change this time to be 0.4 so you can see it more easily. And it worked as we expected. We also have access to the variable bananas. Oh, I misspelled bananas before. And now it prints the amount that is labeled bananas, which goes from 0 up to what times is. That's up to non-inclusive. So as a good example of a bot that's built like this, you can see this spinning flax bot. This just moves through the bank, grabs the flax, and then clicks over and over again on the spell that spins flax in the lunar diary. So I always put this as the number of astral runes that I have, because this will use up 5 astral runes every time the while loop goes through. So I is only incremented 1 time every time, and that way it'll go up until it gets to the end of my astral runes, and then we'll stop. This part here is just to put some randomness in the timing of when I do the loop. I'll make a whole video on ban aversion, including some randomness and including lots of tips on how I think jagex bans you and why I think that. But this is all coming in a later video. I hope you guys learned a lot in this video. Please make your way back for the next video where I'll be showing you how to incorporate user input into your bot, and also I'll be showing you how to make a bot that makes bots for you. See you in the next video. Thanks for showing up. Smash the like button for me.